So I believe that in order to shift out of the perpetual struggle of victim consciousness and into your creator, creatrix, your claim on your birthright of vitality, you have to know what's possible. So if you're new to me or my work, or if you've been around for some time and just want a reminder of what's possible, I wanted to let you in on my history making protocol, Vital Mind Reset, which is a 44-day pattern disruptor for your narrative, for your life story. So Vital Mind Reset combines nutrition, detox, meditation, and self-empowerment for a truly holistic, like 360 signal of safety to be sent to your mind and body. So whether you want to get off of prescription meds and heal chronic illness, move through stress, so-called anxiety and depression, or just feel your absolute best for the rest of your life, this is the path that I have walked myself and that I have helped thousands walk since. So I think the story of this resetter, as we like to call the graduates of the program, is going to resonate with you or with someone you love if you've been struggling with the effects of prescription medication. So here's Gloria's story in her own words. My story is like many of us, a concoction of drugs for 20 years and depressive episodes that were getting worse and closer together. I was at the brink of complete desperation when I found Dr. Brogan's book last year. It gave me the confidence to start managing my tapering. Thank you, Dr. Brogan. She says the process took 12 months, but as of the 7th of April this year, I am completely drug-free. I could burst into tears as I write that publicly. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I could do it. I was brought up believing that I was damaged goods, and if I stopped taking a pill, my world would completely crumble. I haven't crumbled. I've grown. I've tapped into a strength that was within me all along. I just lost touch with it. Have I got a long way to go? Yeah, I do, but I'm getting there slowly, and the commitment to VMR is another step. I really resonate with this resetter story personally because so many of us cling to the victim stories and narratives that we were brought up with. But Gloria reclaimed her health through the protocol and the procedures and the techniques that Vital Mind Reset establishes in your lifestyle, in your self-care, and it affords the reclamation of choice. I love celebrating outcomes like these because it is so important to take in progress, acknowledge it, honor it, and allow it to become your guiding light. So if you know you're ready to reclaim your health and to come home to yourself with my support from my lead coach, Jamie, and a beautiful community of like-minded, like-hearted, dedicated humans walking this reclamation path with you, I would love to invite you to join our live Vital Mind Reset program that begins at the end of March, and calling all practitioners and health coaches. Resolve your imposter syndrome once and for all. Legitimize your capacity to set the foundation for evidence-based lifestyle change and become licensed to offer Vital Mind Reset to your clients as a part of your suite of tools. It all starts March 25th. Check out the link in show notes and I will see you in there. What is a reclaimed woman? Is she strong? Is she free? Is she independent? If you ask me, I'd say she's safe. She knows how to bring safety to her system, body, mind, and heart. And because of that, she isn't expecting it to come from other people, institutions, or her partner. She trusts herself to discern and to create the conditions for her needs to be met. She self-contains and she offers her magic to the world because her inner yes is finally available to be born. I want to help you learn how to offer your heart that safety and to become the reclaimed woman you were born to be. So, if my first book, A Mind of Your Own, was about offering safety to the body, and my second, Own Yourself, was about offering safety to the mind, then I am super excited to announce my latest book, The Reclaimed Woman, which intends to help you to offer safety to your heart. It is available for pre-order now. And if you head to the link in show notes, you can learn more about bonuses, events, and companion offerings. And I am so lit up about growing a movement of women who are becoming who it is that we were born to be. I'm Dr. Kelly Brogan. You may know me as a New York Times bestselling author of a book with an exploding pill on the cover, renegade psychiatrist, pole dancer, or honorary member of the Disinformation Dozen. What can I say? I'm a born provocateur. I've spent most of my recent life exposing deceptions, connecting dots, and discovering the secret places my inner victim is still waiting to be liberated. And now I feel called to help you reclaim all of your parts, your health, your sexuality, your power, and your expression, so that you can finally truly own yourself. I want to ignite in you that inner knowing and the pulsing vitality that lives beneath your disempowerment, disconnection, and resentment, so that you can audaciously, courageously, and playfully alchemize your struggle into the specific pleasure of who you are. This is Reclamation Radio, a Soulfire production. Hi, and welcome back to Reclamation Radio. I am Dr. Kelly Brogan, and today is a special day because it is the first time that I have the opportunity to interview my bestie and soul traveler, Tahra Collins of A Guided Soul. And we chit-chat all the time. So we have been talking about what we might focus on in the epic library of things that we explore together for some time. And we have arrived at the concept of settling, why we settle. And I am, in so many moments, delivered insight, clarity, and reconnection to my own heart, to God, through this woman. And her insights delivered to me are like little gluten-free breadcrumbs on the moonlit path. And the way that she talks about this particular subject, I think, is very, very unique. And also a reflection of something that I explore a lot, including in this space, of what it is to lose something that you think you might die without in order to expand. We have watched each other do this over and over and over again, lose so many facets of our respective identities and dynamics, relationships, roles, places, and spaces. And we've traveled, this kind of journey together. So even though we have very different attachment styles and woundology, we are both dedicated to soul reclamation in the exact same way. It's so rare. I've known Tahra since we were 11 in a rollerblade gang together, living on the same street, Heights Road. And over these years, it's so rare, I think, to evolve in lockstep with somebody when your evolution is this frantic, torrid, and wild, that we have been able to travel it together with such deep companionship. So I am thrilled to have you here, woman. And I want to start out with a bit of like an intro to you. And I think I've never heard you tell this story like in a succinct way to unknown folks. So I'm kind of excited to see how you depict, the past 10, 15 years of this journey. But I'd love to start out with a bit of how you would narrate your coming into this mindset, coming into this worldview, exploring the metaphysical in the particular way that you do. And also, how you would say you've been led to guide others in the way that you do, both through your gifts of mediumship and clairvoyance, and also through your heart wisdom as a healer. So tell us a bit about how you got here.
Thank you, Kelly. I mean, this is so fun for me to be here with you. So thank you. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this conversation and sharing it with others, because we do have so many conversations that we're like, can you imagine if people were listening in on this? It would be really great. So yeah, I'm so proud of you and everything that you've accomplished in your life. It just has been such an incredible opportunity to sit so close to you all these years. And I've often talked about how we've had this like parallel journey. There've been so many different things that have happened to each of us, like that are, similar, but also not similar. But it's been, we've been right there side by side for so many years. And I feel like when my life really took a massive turn, it was in big part thanks to you. And so I'd say that my healing journey, I do say it started probably around 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, but it was really because I had so much illness. I mean, I actually had a lot of illness even when I was younger. I had a tumor when I was 11. I mean, just random kind of like things kept happening to me. That's what I thought, like so many physical ailments, kidney infection, ruptured cyst. It was just like the list kept going on and on. And it wasn't until I started having these sort of like mini epileptic seizures was I really like, okay, something's got to shift here. Like, what is actually happening? And I hadn't at that time processed any of my trauma, any of my woundology, any of my early childhood experiences. So I didn't know how that was affecting me or how my emotional body was stored in my physical body. And you were part of those beginning stages of me really taking ownership of my life and of my physical body. And it came in the form of changing my diet. So it was those early stages of healing were really about how do I take care of myself in a different way. And I think once you change your diet, it is like a vote for yourself. Like if you do anything that's loving for yourself, your body responds. Like you could just be like, I'm going to, if you know this is sort of better for you and you're doing something that's opposite of that, your body's going to know that there's an incoherence there. So your body's going to respond to you doing something that is out of alignment, right? So once I started eating healthier, once I started eating organic, it was all the physical symptoms started to go away, but I was still having a really hard time with relationships and emotional patterns. And then I was lucky enough to be introduced to a medium who introduced to me to a spiritual healer. And that was in 2015. And that's when like everything changed for me. And I remember in 2014 making the declaration that 2015 was going to be the year of me focusing on myself. And I had no idea what that meant. Like I had no idea how things would shift so radically for me. And what happened was I ended up doing this energy healing work with this one woman who basically introduced the idea that our belief systems dominate such a big part of who we are and really address the fears that were motivating my every move. I didn't know I was running my life based on fear. And so I think this is such a big part of what we're going to be talking about today. This idea of settling is really about like, what is your motivation? Are you settling because you're afraid? Or are you settling because you really love what you have in front of you? And we know, I mean, just by nature of the word, we know that it's really because we don't believe that something better is available to us ultimately. And I started to open up to that. And I started to just explore different options and go down different paths. And I ended up quitting my corporate job in 3 years after that sort of big awakening for me in 2015. And really, and once I made that declaration that 2015 was going to be the year for myself, I met my higher self. I started to connect to spirit. And I didn't know that that's what I was asking for, but that's sort of this beautiful sort of byproduct in a way of once you say, yes, I'm going to love myself, I'm going to do things for myself, all of a sudden your higher self, your expanded self meets you and says, okay, thank you. Great. We've been waiting for you. And that's when things really started to shift and change for me. And I started to feel the oneness and start to connect to spirit in this bigger way, where I was then also connecting to other people's loved ones, and everything just started opening up. So it was a, as you say, this reclamation of self that really brought me to this place of doing the work that I do now. So that wasn't succinct, but
Perfect.
but there
It's
you go.
perfect.
That's the story.
And just so people know, like, how would you characterize the work you do now?
Okay, so I do two different things. I mean, I do a lot of different things, but primarily I do intuitive readings. So I communicate with people's guides and angels as well as deceased loved ones. So I do evidential mediumship where I contact and communicate with deceased loved ones for people, as well as giving intuitive information. I'm not a psychic. I'm not going to tell you about your future, but I am going to tell you about your energy right now and where you're going, what's the probable and where your momentum is going right now, which is, I think, important. A lot of people need to know that, need to have that sort of look into their lives. And I also do energy healing, which is a combination of many things. I started originally with theta healing, but I've developed a modality that's a bit more my own, which includes sound healing. And I take people on these sort of meditation hypno trips, as I like to say, where you're in a kind of hypnosis state and you're journeying with me. And it's kind of bringing people into what would be like a plant medicine experience without the plant medicine. So it's bringing them to a place where they can rewrite their programs and see their fears, see their conditioning, and then choose to flip it and choose to live the more expanded version, believe the more expanded version, and bring that into their body. So I also, when I'm working with people, do a lot of inner child work because I often say that the body is the inner child. So it's really about being with that inner child, being with your body and helping your body to understand what is possible beyond what we know in this moment and really expand that consciousness and really open people up to the greater version of who they are, like reminding them that they are God, remembering who we are at our core, at our essence. So that's my intention. That's my prayer when I'm working with people.
I always tell you this, but the best part, I think, about your signature energy is that you are the most that I've ever met, like authentically connected woman. And what I mean by that is that like so many of the things that you say, when you refer, we joke that like I see the world as atomized, like I see everybody as separate and different, and you see everyone almost always as connected and related. And the way that you talk about the nature of this connection is something that never rubs me in the way that so much of the new age spiritual bypass talking about the unified field and the oneness does, because you also love the darkness. You also can traffic in those spaces, and it is part of your lived practice, let alone, what you offer to others, to roll up your damn sleeves and, get into the shame caverns and explore how and why it is that we do the weird shit that we do. And because, we share this worldview around personal responsibility and the opportunities that adversity can bring, you've been the primary, other than Swampal, Patricia Hart, like support that I've referred to for 15 years. I mean, in my entire practice for a decade, there were two people that I ever felt I could really refer to because of how tenuous the grasp on, self-empowerment was for so many of the women that I would work with. So it's such a unique part of what you bring to the table. So I want to talk about crumbs. I want to talk about how we and why we settle in our life, why it's for us when we recognize, that we are doing that. And I know that you work with so many clients who are in processes of expansion. And so you've seen this pattern over and over again, how we tolerate living with what is intolerable. And we also tolerate not getting what it is that we want. We convince ourselves, gaslight ourselves that we're fine with what is, even though our heart's desire is yearning for something that isn't quite in the field. And you have, program on manifestation. You have very particular ways about relating to desire and what may be forthcoming in one's life. So I'd love to start out with what you see in terms of your clients. with regard to like patterns of how it is that we tend to settle and like, why does it matter? What's the problem with it?
Yeah, totally. So anything I bring to my clients, it's because I've had the journey myself. Like I've gone there myself. And so one of the terms I like to use is slaying dragons, which is slaying the illusion that what I have is good enough. And I feel like I've done this over and over again. And that is the expansion. It's the meeting the part of you that says, I'm uncomfortable. This isn't actually what I want. And then being brave enough to slay the dragons, like to really see it and to really expose what's happening within yourself to yourself. And so you talk about crumbs. I love this metaphor of crumbs because crumbs is cake after all. And, we often think like, oh, don't accept crumbs. But like, of course, we're going to accept crumbs. Crumbs is better than nothing. That's the idea. And that's what most of us end up in for a while until we kind of wake up and meet that part of ourselves that's whispering and we're not listening to. And so I see this all the time with my clients too. And I do feel like I can help from this place of my personal knowing as well, which is, that we don't have to take it fast. We don't have to move quickly through this. It's like bite by bite. We're going to work through this and we're going to get you to the place where you're ready to claim the next thing. But, the examples that I see a lot are, someone's dating someone and there's a part of them that sort of knows this isn't the person. And they feel like, just sometimes they feel a little uncomfortable. They do this thing, and they're just not listening to the part of them that says like, that's not for me. Like, it just doesn't feel like for me. Or they're in a job that's, great in a lot of ways. And, maybe it gives them status, it gives them the money they want, but they are totally stressed out. Like their body is actually telling them this isn't working for me. Or maybe this happens all the time too. People are in a home, they agree to live somewhere that isn't the place that really satisfies them. Like maybe it's too dark. And so every day they wake up and there's a part of them that says, it's really dark in here. Like I really wish, and they're just not hearing themselves. Right. And yeah, so that's basically what I see often with my clients. And so it is helping people to recognize it first and helping them to move into the next thing.
Totally. So I call this, and when we talk about it, like the little no inside. So
Yeah.
this is one of the most, in my opinion, essential aspects of self-reclamation is maybe like the first order of business is really developing a relationship to that little no, like you said, like you feel it on the first date, maybe in the first 5 minutes, or you feel it when you walk into the new apartment you're considering renting. You feel it when you slip the dress on in the fitting room. And for some reason that I'd like to unpack,
Mhm.
we often have a habit of talking ourselves out of the no, right? And defending why it's fine or it's good enough. And I'd love to sort of like, before we talk about like how to relate to that and how to evolve and mature that dynamic, like what do you see as the consequences of that? Like, let's say we live a whole life feeling that little no and just being like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Right. Like putting a pile of, yes on top of it to smother it into silence. What are like over a lifetime or maybe even over years, like, why does it matter? And what do you see as the consequences of that self neglect?
Yeah. So I see it as like, it's a signal to the universe. We are in conversation with the universe all the time. The universe is you in reverse. It is you, it's an extension of you. So if you're in this relationship with your extended self where you're ignoring, you're separate. There's an internal split going on. And what happens is the universe is responding to your inner confusion, your inner split, and it ends up just giving you more of the same. The old expression, we get what we tolerate, right? So it's the same idea. So it's like if you go to a restaurant and you really want a hamburger, but they bring you a portobello mushroom burger? And are you going to sit there and just eat it? Or are you going to say, no, I want the burger that I ordered? But there's so many reasons why people don't do this. They don't send the burger back. One, they may feel that if I don't keep this burger, I might starve. Like very often it is like a matter of survival for people. Like, what if I don't have a job? Like, like I can't just say no to a job. What if the next thing I get is not as good as what I have right now? And or a lot of people think like I don't want to be difficult. We were sort of raised to believe that you should just be grateful for what you have, right? Just be grateful. And we can. And this is not about like saying, oh, don't be grateful. It's about recognizing like everything is perfect right now. Everything is what I want. Because, of course, on some level, everything you have in this moment is what you want. So there is that real responsibility that you want to take. Like, okay, I did actually, for some reason, call in this portobello mushroom burger. I'm going to take responsibility for that. And then I'm going to say, but I need to be really clear about what I want next. And I'm going to own that. And I'm actually going to demand that because you're not going to get what you want if you don't stand behind the fact that you are worthy of that. And a lot of this comes down to worthiness. And I think it's important too to talk about worthiness because we often think that worthiness is in reference to like our ego. And I'm not talking about ego worthiness. Like this isn't a merit based system. Like I don't believe that the universe is like rewarding you for doing good things, which is kind of the opposite of what a lot of people think. They think, okay, if I work really hard, if I, am really nice and really good, like that means I get these things that I want. And that isn't where our worthiness comes from. But we were led to believe that. Like, if you do good things, if you put all your ducks in a row, then you will get the things you want. Instead, I really believe that our worthiness comes from our connection to source. It comes from that connection to our deepest part and knowing that we aren't our name, we aren't our ego, we aren't the small self. So one time, Spirit actually said to me, Tara, everything that's wonderful in your life, everything that you've accomplished, you as Tara had nothing to do with it. Nothing. And I remember reflecting in that moment on my corporate job and all the clients I had and all the success that I had. And I was like, what are you talking about? You're telling me that like none of that was me? Like none of that was me? And basically Spirit was like, no, that was all a gift. It was all gifts. But it was from this place of like, I actually allowed it to come in. So that's like when people talk about abundance, it's all about the fact that everybody, because they are connected to source, because they are connected to spirit, is worthy of the abundance. Your belief about yourself is what's actually blocking it. Your own belief that you're not worthy, which is, I believe, from our childhood conditioning, from those early programs, is what is blocking the abundance that is wanting to come to you. The next best thing that's better, that is a more expanded version of what you have right now. It wants to come to you. It's just a matter of whether or not you believe that it can come and that it is there for you and that you are worthy of it because of who you really, really are beneath all the personality and nonsense in a way. Yeah.
So there are things that we get out of not having what we truly want and this habit of settling, right? You mentioned one of them, which is that we can maintain and secure an identity as like a grateful, sort of easygoing, like participant in this thing we call life. I wonder if there are other subconscious and trauma based aversions to expanding into the acquisition, if that's the right word, of what it is that we want that might also keep us like circling this drain over and over and over again for years on end, where we're just sort of like stuck. So, like, when you think about developing this relationship to self-worth and receptivity, what do you think we imagine are the risks, right? So if I look at my relationship or I look at my, job or my home, and I'm actually real enough to honor the part of me that said, you know what, this is either no longer a fit or maybe it wasn't from the beginning. I've been trying to tell you, right? So that part that is sounding the alarm on compatibility and recognizing that there's a desire that can't be unwanted, right? So when I finally own that, why might I still be afraid to move in the direction of change? Is it only because I don't think I'm worth having something better? Or do you think there are like other,
There's deeper beliefs.
yeah,
Yeah, there's deeper beliefs. Meaning, so is the question really like, why do we defend what's not working? Like, what is underneath there? Yeah. So basically, I believe that so many of us have these programs from our childhood. I also believe that we come in with a lot of these, like either ancestrally or if they're soul based programs, and it's all on purpose. So we're not, we kind of like, we do this to ourselves. It's the game that we're playing with ourselves. I like to say that consciousness is born to overcome the illusion of smallness. Like we were born into this experience so that we could collapse into an identity and then awaken out of that identity again. It's the trajectory. It's like, it's the arc of life. And does everybody have that same thing in each life? No. But I do think that there is some sort of like everyone is on some version of that, in their own way. And I think that those programs that we often get in childhood, we're led to believe, like, let's just say you were led to believe that people like you don't get everything you want. So you think there's something particular about you that, that's the reason that you don't get everything you want.
like you're
Or,
exceptional some
yeah,
way?
yeah, exactly. Or, you're led to believe that you don't win. I mean, I can't tell you how many of my clients say, I don't win things. Like, they just at one point, and I said that too. I remember
I
winning.
literally just said that at the Conscious Cabaret. Did I tell you this? I won the raffle. And
Mhm.
so I won like a crystal G spot dildo. Like I won it. And they called me up to the stage. And as I was walking to the stage, I said, I never win anything. Like somebody's
That's a
like,
program.
you're a fucking New York Times bestseller. Like, what even is that? First of all, it's like
Yeah.
not true. And second of all, it just came out of my mouth as if, is it that it makes everybody else around me feel better if I were to have the thing they don't have? Like, oh, I'm just a sad sack. This is an
Yeah,
exception
yeah,
my whole life. So don't be friends.
yeah.
Like, what even is that? That's so
Yeah, it's the unconscious program. I remember in middle school, I won a basket from Laura Ashley, like full of like soaps and, bath salts. And I remember going, what? Like, it was like, it like busted my mind open because I was like, how could I, little me, I was like 11. I was like, how could I, little me, win this basket? Like, it like didn't compute. And that's how a lot of people feel. They can't compute. And even when they get tons of evidence to show them that they're the person that wins, that they're the person that actually gets a lot of things, like it's still just there. It's like they're holding onto that program because it does make them feel, yeah, like justifies probably their receiving. Because we do feel like in order to receive, we have to justify why we're receiving. We can't just receive, we have to work for it. We got to do something for it. We got to, yeah. So, or, a lot of people just are led to believe that they don't deserve better, or they're led to believe that, you know, if you get or want more, actually, if you even just want more, you're selfish. Like, can't you, again, like we talked about this earlier, but it's like, can't you just be grateful for what you have? And if you're selfish, you're a bad person. And then, of course, then you're not worthy of anything, are you? It's like, it's this loop that we get caught in.
Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, I remember the transition even in our friendship, and I've like literally only ever known you to be unconditionally supportive of me. And somehow it was like a very intentional and conscious transition that I went through while I was working with my coach, Whitney, to begin to bring you the good news from my life and to start to celebrate, whether it was, how my business was doing or connections, that felt really audacious, or I don't know, just whatever I might otherwise just like not have mentioned. And the amount of safety that we already have cultivated in our friendship was like still barely enough for me to feel safe enough to celebrate with you. And that kind of, it reminds me of some of the comments I've gotten on social media about, since I've started talking about like the revenue I secure in my business or whatever. And people are like, well, how dare you flaunt that when there are people working 60 hours a week and they barely can buy groceries or whatever. And if that is our consciousness, that like all boats must rise together or none, or, so the survivor guilt of like, if I have it, then, I must figure out a way to give it. Otherwise, I will be somehow in the wrong. We start to get a sense of like maybe the burden associated with having like the great thing instead of the apologetic version of the thing, or like the mediocre version of the thing, right? The medium ugly boyfriend, instead of like walking around with whatever it is that would blow your mind just to take a glance over at him, kind of a thing. So these programs, I know you mentioned having, trained in theta healing. What do you think is the most, like, how would you summarize? Because you do so many different things. How would you summarize, like, how you think the most efficient and powerful way is to interact with these programs, given how, like, baked in they are and how invested so many of our parts are in keeping us quite small and complaining in our lifescape?
Yeah. So I think it's important to think of these programs as manifesting in the body. There's some place, often it's our feelings, where you're going to see the manifestation of your program. So when we're abandoning ourselves and when we're not listening, it's really because we are ignoring the feeling that we're having, like the discomfort that we feel. And, you know, I think it's important to say too that it's not about, if you recognize, okay, I'm uncomfortable, this isn't about then blaming, shaming, or making the thing that you're not wanting wrong and bad, right? Like you always say. It's about just turning towards yourself and saying, okay, my body is telling me something here, and I'm just going to begin to listen to it and really be with it and have emotional self awareness and really be in a deeper relationship with your body. It's all about the body, really, because you can have this knowing and you can hear, you can hear yourself, but it's when we begin to do that deep listening with our own feelings and our own emotions, that's when we bring that knowing into embodiment. And listening to, it's not about listening to the stories, because the stories is always going to be, the stories are always suspect. The story is just the thing, the narrative that you're self made up at the time of the trauma. And that's the part of you that wants to push things away. So it's like, let's just say you do wake up to, wait, I don't want to live where I live. Like the tendency is to go, this place is shit. like immediately when you wake up, you want to make the place, like you want to get mad at your landlord and be like, how, why are you doing this, that, and the other thing, like when really it's just about recognizing it doesn't work for you. Like, okay, this doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good for me. And I'm just going to move towards the things that feel good. I mean, this is where so much of this is about, like the manifesting. And, there's so many manifesting gurus out there who talk about this idea of like following what feels good. And that's exactly what we're talking about. It's like just following what feels good, which requires you to stop ignoring when things don't feel good, when things feel uncomfortable. And Yeah. So a big part of this is that body awareness, that emotional awareness. And, that's why I take people into meditative states, because when you are in a theta brainwave or in that relaxed state, in like under hypnosis, your body isn't on guard. You're more likely to allow this new idea, these new programs to go into the body, basically, to start to rewrite how you move through the world.
So here's the truth. I have turned down more brand and sponsorship deals than I can count. I'm really not a big supplement girly. And that's why my program, Vital Mind Reset, involves literally no supplements at all. But I do believe and use energetic remedies. The body is electromagnetic, and water holds more power and information than we could possibly have imagined. Flower remedies are such powerful transformational agents, and they're also safe and gentle for everyone, even pregnant mamas and little ones. And it's really not about like recruiting some external source that we hope will save our broken selves. It's about activating the wisdom within us from the natural world. So I am so excited to share Lotus Way with you. You can head to lotusway.com and use the code Kelly15 for 15% off. The link is in show notes. So I want to talk about a guided soul brand manifesting. But before we do that, I'm just feeling, even as you're talking about this and reflecting on how many times I've been through this liminal space, which is between knowing and acknowledging
Mhm.
that you're in a situation that doesn't actually fucking work for you, and connecting to what you actually want with decisive clarity and commitment. There's a space between, right? Let's say
Mhm.
the no and the yes. And in so many ways, once we're honoring the no, when it's loud, you want it to be quiet. When it's small, you want it to be bigger. When it feels cold, you want it to be warmer. So there is that desire just rippling underneath the surface of that no. But often I think we're so, for reasons we just described, like afraid to align with boldness and audacity to our desires, that even feeling what might be pleasurable or knowing what feels good takes some practice and increased self awareness. And that's why starting with the no makes sense, because our no that felt like,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
like clench. It's like a little like, ugh. And if you
We're
watch
more
it, you'll
familiar
sense
with
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
It's
more
there a
familiar.
lot. It's there a
Yeah.
lot. And we discern that way, most of us. But how would you counsel somebody to sort of, once they're ready to get real, like what if they don't know what feels good? What if they don't know what they actually want? And they're like, well, that's why I'm staying in the relationship. I don't want to be single forever and die with my cats, or the real estate market is so crazy that I'm never going to get something better than this out there. All of the ways that we talk ourselves into being okay with what isn't working. When you finally acknowledge that no, what if you don't know yet what it is that you want?
Yeah. So I would say that we don't actually want things, we want feelings. You've probably heard this before, but it's true. It's so true. Like we want feelings. And we then think we know what thing will give us that feeling, but we don't know. And that's okay. So what we're going to do is focus just on the feelings that we actually want. And the feelings are what guide you to the next best thing for you. So let's just say you're in a job that you don't really, you have that no, right? It's uncomfortable. Maybe you get really stressed out in the job and it just is like it's long hours, it doesn't feel right. So the new job, what you would do is you would just say, well, what do I want to feel in this new job? And maybe that list is like, I want to feel seen. I want to feel celebrated. I want to feel needed. I want to feel cared for and not overworked. Like you want to feel like the people that you're working with are connected to you. And so these are the feelings that you want to start to get close to and find where in your life do you already feel this, and invite in more experiences where you have this feeling, because the feeling is the vibration, for lack of a better way of explaining it, but it's the vibration that is going to put you in harmony or resonance with the thing. So then something's going to come in your life where a job opportunity, in this case, would come in where you're already a match for it in many ways. It's sort of the collapse between you and that thing that you weren't really worthy of has happened. There's been a collapse, but a lot of how we do this is how we are relating to ourselves. So the very fact that you might be ignoring when you're uncomfortable is a situation where you're not seeing yourself, you're not celebrating yourself, you're not giving yourself what you need. So it's so important that we relate to ourselves in the ways that we want the things outside of us to relate to us. And that is, in many ways, the way I see it, as the path to having things in your life that feel really good, feel like resonant with what it is you actually want. You can't receive, and you say this all the time too, but you can't receive anything that you haven't already given yourself. And you have been like, if you're not able to receive it from yourself, you're not going to get it from the outside. Let's put it like that. So we do need to, begin to really listen to ourselves in these ways so that we can, see that from our external experiences. So I think the job example is a good one.
Totally.
Mhm.
And I think part of the question is like, how do we cultivate a relationship to divine timing or patience? And
Mhm.
that space between either knowing what you don't want and then knowing what you want, or knowing what you want and then having the lived experience of what it is that you think you want. And what you're saying, and of course I support, is that the first step is to, in the imaginal realm, like cultivate the feeling of what it is that you imagine you would feel having something other than what you have right now, that
Mhm.
is better, more expanded, and then find little ways to connect to that in your already present reality.
Mhm.
How do you recommend, though, that we relate to desire in an ongoing way? Right. So, what if it's like, okay, we know we want the new thing. We know what the new thing will feel like. And there's like little ways we can feel safer, more romantic, more luxurious, more powerful, more important, whatever it is that we imagine would be conferred by having this new experience that we've been bold enough to embrace. But what if it like takes a long fucking time? Like, then what
Yeah, yeah.
do you do?
Yes.
Like,
So
how
I'm
do
all
you
about
relate to it?
divine timing. And divine timing, I think the big part of divine timing and being okay with divine timing is the fact that you are loving yourself every step of the way. The only reason we don't like waiting is because we're really mean to ourselves as we're waiting for something. I heard one time on the beach when I asked Spirit, I said, give me a message right now. And I heard Spirit say patience. And I really think that like my life journey has been about patience. Like that's one of my main lessons, like to trust and to be patient. And when I've been patient, I have been rewarded. I really feel this feeling of like, oh, like I just have allowed things, like I've desired things and they have come, but not as quickly as I would like them. So I asked Spirit, well, what does patience mean anyway? I was like, getting all irritated with Spirit. I was like, what does patience mean anyway? And I heard Spirit say, patience is loving yourself every step of the way. And if you're in a relationship with yourself where you're listening and you're not, like we're talking about, not ignoring the part of yourself that's uncomfortable in certain situations, and you're really taking care of yourself, like really taking care of yourself. And this, it can look a million different ways, right? It can be what you eat, it can be moving your body, it can be the way you're talking to yourself in the mirror. But it's just like committing to all these ways to move towards more and more self love, seeing yourself through the eyes of the creator, like just committing to, like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start to see myself through the eyes of the creator. And believe me, there are days that I look in the mirror and I say some pretty nasty things to myself. And then I say, Tara, let's take it again. Like, change your perception. Look at yourself through the eyes of the creator. And there is something magical that happens in that moment where I literally see a different body, a different face right in front of me. And so it's a choice to switch your perception. You can change your own perception. And so you can switch into that mode of love. And I feel like the more and more that we do that for ourselves, the more and more we are able to, come into the kind of relationship that we are wanting. So I think we're fine with waiting ultimately and having patience when we're cool with the company we're keeping. And if you are, the more and more you are loving and kind to yourself, the easier it is to wait because you're less attached to the thing outside of you saving you and being what you need to feel whole. It's just coming into that sense of wholeness within you while also still having desires because we need to expand. I love the quote by William S. Burroughs that says, when you stop growing, you start dying. And we can be super grateful for what we have now. We can give ourselves that self love right now and also have clarity on what we want and be moving towards something at any given moment. I think that's also like the constant interplay of the masculine and feminine, like, sort of happy with what's the perfection of now, the feminine, and also like driving towards something, moving towards something. But I think part of this self love piece too is that this is going to take the time it takes. Like this relationship that you're building with yourself and your own inner child. Your inner child, again, is your body, your feelings, like the relationship you're developing. You're in the long game here. Like so many people think, oh, this should be, I have a couple of years of healing and I'm done. Like, shouldn't I be done already? And I'm like, no, it's like, it's a lifelong journey or it's an entire like soul's journey. And I like to think about we have eternity to get this right. We have eternity to come into a greater relationship with ourself. And that's what I believe the remembering is, this remembering, bringing back together all these parts, having all of our parts communicating again. And that remembering is, it doesn't have to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. And really accepting that and having patience for ourselves and our relationship and the development of our relationship with ourselves is really an important piece here. And it's like, in other words, let yourself integrate, and it's going to take the time it takes.
I've, over the decades, like borne a firsthand witness to your capacity to experience real, authentic joy, like actual joy in your daily, like stupid, silly day. Like you'll literally leave me a message with like tears about how amazing life is. And I know that you also have been in this patience training ground on some fronts in your life. And you have gotten to a place where you've resolved if then living, my coach will call it if then living, right? So it's not like, oh, if I get the thing, then I will feel the thing. Like I've watched you do this very authentically. And, one thing I want to mention before we go into a practice is what I've learned from you about prayer, because I really held on to my atheistic identity for quite a long time, as you know, and this idea of praying in a way that wasn't like, please help me, please do the thing for me. I cannot, that just reifies our powerlessness. It didn't appeal to me. It didn't come naturally to me. And I know that you pray and you encourage people to pray in a very different way, So I wonder if you could just sort of speak to that.
Yeah. So I say the prayer is always thank you. So praying is having gratitude and thanks for what already is and what we want to come. So it's being in that feeling of gratitude right now. And that is a practice, it's a cultivation. Like you said, I have made it a practice to delight in all the little things of life. Like literally this morning, everybody knows the first cup. I mean, the first sip of coffee is delicious. Like, really, everybody loves that. The first sip of your matcha, like, it's just so good. But to actually bring that presence to every sip, that's the practice. And so I actually do that, like, not every day, of course, but I really make it like the meditation of my life, like a devotion to really slowing down and having gratitude for all the little things. I mean, you're right. I leave you these ridiculous messages where I'm like, hello, bird, hello, butterfly. Like, it's like, I
Like,
did not use,
actually,
yeah, I did not used to be like that. That was not my life. When I was in New York City, like I was chasing other things. And I certainly wasn't dropping into the value of what was right in front of me. And the more we cultivate that and come into, this idea of being here now, it really does just open you up to the fact that, at the core, you do have everything you want in this moment. You really do. Those feelings are available to you right now. And it's always getting better. And we want to keep like pushing the edge. We want to move into those uncomfortable places, a different kind of discomfort, though. It's the discomfort of going to the edge of what you're familiar with. And, that's a different discomfort because it's like, it's where you need to go in order to meet a new or the other parts of who you are. It's like, it's that. And that I just love the way the universe or God or creator or our higher self always like is beckoning us to come. Like there's something there too. Like we're always being beckoned to meet a greater version of ourselves. And so if you're feeling fear or discomfort about moving to that next thing or like taking the leap, I'd say like also the universe always rewards the brave. Like the brave do, receive. And it's meant to feel a little like fearful. You were meant to feel a little fear. Otherwise, it's like, there is nothing to achieve in the next thing. And I also want to say one other thing about people always say, keep hope alive. Like if you want something, they're like, oh, keep hope alive. But like, whose hope really? I feel like we need to just bury hope along with worry. Like we shouldn't be hoping for things. We want to know that it's possible for us and say, I will have, or thank you. The prayer is thank you for the fact that I already have this thing in my life. So I think we should just like take hope out of our vocabulary because with hope, there's always this like seed of doubt, that it's not really possible. And of course, worry out of our vocabulary too. So it's thank you for what is and thank you for what will become.
I love that you mentioned the hope bit because I will never forget when my family therapist, Allison, told me, you probably remember, to like give up hope on my parents.
Mm,
And perhaps she says that to every client, and I certainly passed it on, like, what is it to get to the point where you give up hope on your parents? Whatever
mm,
that means for you, right? Like ever loving you the way you wish they did or could, or maybe one day, one day, one day. It's a part of the sovereign path to release people from the expectation to fulfill what it is that you are in a position to fulfill, like unto yourself.
mhm, mhm,
And
mhm,
it's such an important, yeah, it's like a spring that just snaps and you get all this energy back, even though it
mhm,
feels like, giving up would be somehow like letting go of the desire or abdicating, the wanting. I love that. So
mhm.
amazing woman. So I would love to end on a practice that you shared in your most magnificent newsletter recently because it's a solar plexus practice and you create so many amazing meditations and visualizations. And I love this one, of course, because the reclamation of this power is a part of what attends the, self allegiance, right? That is honoring the no and saying, I am no longer settling in my life. And that doesn't mean that I am going to be in complaint, ingratitude, and some sort of like adult tantrum, about all the things that suck all the time, right? It simply means that I am reconnecting to the honoring of that sacred, intuitive sense of, nope, not quite right. Something better, something more pleasurable, something more aligned, something bigger is actually, waiting for you once you connect to the desire for it. So I'd love for you to just depict, what this practice consists of so we can leave folks with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you also just said intuition too, because I think that our intuition is so intimately intertwined with our emotions. They are so connected, and our intuition often speaks in inconvenient truths. So when something feels inconvenient too, that's usually like your intuition winking at you and giving you a little nudge to move, to expand, to go into the next phase. Yeah, so this solar plexus practice is really great to expand kind of your understanding of yourself and sort of go into that space of really feeling your connection with your source, with the extended version of yourself. If you think about the fact that, like, when we are in utero, we come out, obviously, the vaginal canal, but we are connected through the belly button. And so our like sense of self and that original sort of separation is sort of originating from this place in the body. And so we do have that trauma that happens where we get separated there. We understand ourselves as a separate self. And I think that doing this practice helps you to connect to that deeper self and to really gain your worthiness and power back from that place. So this practice is, you can put on some meditation music and set your timer for 10 minutes. You can close your eyes. And then basically what you're going to be doing is you're just going to see a yellow light like a sun right at your solar plexus. And you're going to see this pulsating. And so you're going to see it start the size of a pea, and then it's going to get larger to the size of a grapefruit and a basketball. And it's going to get larger and larger. And then this beautiful yellow light, the sun, is going to expand so it's surrounding your entire body. And you're going to feel and see yourself then in this ball of light. And then this ball of light is going to begin to sort of bounce around, and it's going to move through space and time in this nonlinear way. And you're going to feel this connection with this expanded energy, with this light. And you're just going to float in this space and just feel the energy of this space, feel the sacredness of this space, and allow yourself to really get taken away by this. And then after some time goes by, the alarm is going to go off. If you set your alarm for 10 minutes, as I mentioned, the alarm will go off. And when the alarm goes off, what you're going to do is you're going to watch that light then extends, shrinks down again to the size of a pea. And you're going to see this like bright little pea. And then the pea is going to go back into your navel. And so you're going to feel the energy of the entire universe once again, the entire essence of everything that we are, all that is. It's going to go right back into the center of your being. And from that place, you're just going to feel your own power inside you as one with you. And you're going to carry the strength of that with you into the next phase of your life.
I love that. So, little known fact, I have been a major consumer of all of your offerings for a couple of years. And well, it's not little known to you, but to others perhaps. And I have experienced you like as if I'm meeting you, as a participant. And it's just such a unique space that you hold and such powerful tools that you contribute. But what I always say is, what we're selling, especially as female entrepreneurs, is our energy. And your energy, your heart, I mean, it's just makes me cry. Of course, thought I'd make it. This is the fucking greatest gift I've given myself in this lifetime. You are my 911 and have been for so long. And just to have you as a resource personally and to be able to share you with the populace gives me great pleasure and safety, actually. You know, there is a reason with all the extraordinary women I have in my life that, you're my first call always. And with that, I would love to share, what you have coming up because it's an incredible program I've taken and learned so much from, even though we literally talk about this shit all the time and live it, the way that you package your teachings and the space that you hold, and moreover, what it is to spend time in your presence and how transformative that can be is why I'm excited, to share about fruition. And I'd love for you to tell people a little bit about, what you have coming up.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't even know. I don't even know how to respond to that. It's so beautiful. I have a new workshop starting. So, Fruition is my manifesting course. It's more of a container, it's really like a workshop. So, the idea is that, so many of us know so many principles of manifesting, but to do it with a group, to do it with an intimate group where everyone has eyes on you and everyone is like rooting for you. And it's usually like the most beautiful, loving people coming together. And just supporting each other in not only living a practice of gratitude for now, but also what is it that I want? Like, what's the next thing? And so we begin again on April 9th, and it's 7 weeks. And there's always a teaching or reviewing of, what manifesting is. And then there is tons of practices and in the class, and then you have at home practices. There's a lot of like somatic work. We work with trauma. There's so many things that we address in this container so that we really do feel that it's about manifesting, but it's more about like just a way to move through life. And it's my dream come true, to be honest with you. Like, this is my most favorite subject. So the fact that I can talk about this with people and meet with people, weekly and be in this space is like, how did this happen? I can't imagine a better life. I mean, I have designed the life that I truly want, which is so fun. And yeah, and to see people have their aha moments and their breakthroughs is really just such a gift. Yeah, so I hope people join for that. I also have an intuition course, which a lot of people have gone through already and love, and that's on my website as an evergreen. So you can purchase that at any time if you want to improve your intuition. But it would be most fun if I could see you live at Fruition coming up.
I love that it's a meta manifestation for you. And I also think you have the funniest stories of like the play of manifestation, whether it's like thinking about how you need a jewelry box and then like walking by, like a pile of them available to you, or like literally leaving me a message like, I think I want an air fryer, and then sending me a picture like hours later of like one available on the sidewalk. There's like infinite stories like that that are just an example of the playfulness that you bring to this realm that like again coming from this very secular mindset that I was so steeped in, it's like tedious how seriously people can take their manifestation practices. And there's like a stench of desperation, that I can certainly relate to, that is like loosely covered over by the potpourri of like your manifestation board or whatever. And your approach is, it's just very, very refreshing. So yeah, I could not recommend either and both of those programs more.
Can I give you one example of that
Oh, yeah, yeah, I know there's so
that
many, yeah.
comes to mind? I mean, because you're right. Like that, I do have all these, because when you start to really like cultivate this practice of gratitude every day, I do think that the thank you prayer just ends up making it so much easier to call forth these like little things in your life. I mean, there's so many things that happen on a daily basis that just now show me like the magic of life. And that's what I want to bring to people, really to feel like every day is magical. Like massive things don't need to change in order for you to really feel different in your own life experience. And one of the ones that I love too is the how one day I was like, you know what, I really want like I want a friend who's like older, like an old lady friend, because my beloved aunt passed away and she was 50 years older than me. And I loved having her in my life as an elder. And so I was like, I really want an older friend. And then one day, another day, I was walking up in the hills near my house and I was like, how come I don't have a friend on this street? I really want a friend who lives on this street. And then within a few weeks, I met an older woman at a coffee shop who ended up, of course, living on that very street that I had asked, like I was saying that I wanted in my own mind, putting the request out there. And she invited me over to lunch at her house. It was like the funniest thing. I just met this random woman. And the next thing you know, I'm like having tea by her pool on the exact street that I wanted, a friend. So, that's it. This is what's so fun about this workshop is it's like everybody starts having these stories. Like you just start and then you're in this like fun game with other people. And so, yeah, I don't want to do life any other way, honestly.
Amen. You are a delightful human. I love you. Thank you for being in formal convo with me. And we'll make sure all the links are in show notes. And I will talk to you soon.
Love you.